You also might want to schedule yourself a little bit of time to work on your presentation for this afternoon. Now remember that this is about your group project. It's not about something individual that you've done. It's about the group project, and it's a group presentation. And so it should be somewhere between 5 and 8 minutes. And as soon as then you're done with the group presentation, we'll do a wrap-up and evaluation. Malcolm will see us off, and then you can go back upstairs until 5 o'clock. The time is yours, unless you're going to the Cavs game, and then you probably want to go home and change and get on your Cavs clothes. So, without further ado, Ian Charnas is the manager for ThinkBox, and he's running all day, every day, helping other people and doing other things. So, Ian, thank you for being here.
Thanks. Can I pull something up on?
Please do.
Everybody give me 1 second here. I'm going to have to log you out.
That's fine. The lovely world of Google, I can't complain. It sure beats the flash drives that we plug in and wonder if it was going to work.
You know, I'm so quick to jump ships. I saw it for 10 minutes. That's one way from it. I feel like that's how I
Perfect. Okay, everybody, are you ready? My name is Ian Charnas. I'm the manager at ThinkBox. I got hired in 2011 as the first staff member. Before that, I was making websites, and I got the word that Case was starting an innovation center, and I put my name in the hat. And fortunately for me, they couldn't find anybody smart or good-looking to run the place, so I got the position. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the origins of ThinkBox. I know you've been here, you're familiar with it, but maybe I could share a little bit more about the background, the purpose, the motivation, the goals, some of the metrics, some of the things that we feel make it worth talking about. Great way to start is with a video. I'm going to see if this actually plays. I think the HDMI will carry the audio.
ThinkBox was actually like one of the reasons that I came, and I toured it and saw the kids making these cool different products that they had designed themselves.
People come in here all the time with ideas.
I helped develop a malaria detection device in ThinkBox.
I developed a more efficient way of injecting fuel into jet engines.
We're building the first commercially viable fuel cell vehicle, an electric bike.
We developed a smart water meter that can help consumers save millions of gallons of water.
They can actually build it. They can actually make it. They can see it fly. They can see it roam around.
So for Design Go Fly, it's exactly what it sounds like. We have to design a small model airplane. And now we used to do it where all those parts would be cut by hand.
We'd have to go and like trace those out manually on a piece of wood, and we'd have to cut them out.
And that would take on the order of a month to build an airplane. And we were able to come down here and produce another airplane with a laser cutter in about a week's time.
ThinkBox is a really great place to get creative. Any sort of idea you have, I make things all the time in here.
It's the fact that it's available to us. We can come in here and do whatever we want. There's no limitations.
At most schools, the cool stuff is locked off behind the professor's door, or it's major specific. We've got, just in 3D printers, the top of the line, industry standard. You can't get a better machine.
We use the 3D printer and the circuit board router at ThinkBox. It came out of the printer in 2 different pieces,
And you clip it around the pipe behind your existing shower head, and it knows when your shower starts and your shower stops. And then you get the data fed to your smartphone and tablet.
You're going to get access to 2 giant, extremely powerful laser cutters. We've got computer-controlled cable routers, you name it.
We teamed up with the med school and the engineering school from simple design to a real tangible device. I don't think we could have gotten this far without ThinkBox.
We actually started to collaborate with an industrial designer from the Cleveland Institute of Art.
So you get students from other universities working together with our engineers, legal students, our management students. That's how you make something that wins design competitions and turns into a real startup.
Well, this product is patent pending. We filed a provisional patent for it.
We were on the front cover of the Plain Dealer, and that actually got us a phone call from a local guy who said, I'm interested in being part of your company. We've really just steadily moved forward since then.
We are taking the device to both Peru and India to conduct field trials, so hopefully we can save millions of lives and eradicate malaria.
After I took the tour, I was just like, wow.
ThinkBox right now is pretty big, but they have a plan to open this like 7-story ThinkBox. Like you can have like almost everyone in the freshman class there at the same time.
So if you have an idea, ThinkBox is where you like bring that idea to life. Awesome. Go check out ThinkBox.
Think that rockin' music? Get you pumped up? This is one of our recruitment videos. Is it on the website? This is not on the website. It's open. It's shown just at student recruitment events. We're making a new one now so that that reflects. We're in the space now. We're no longer building it. Oh. Back there. There's a couple unique things about ThinkBox that we're really proud of, and we think that those of us from Ohio can be proud of. One thing is the scale. So we're really fortunate with our funding level that we were able to construct this 7-story, 50,000 square foot version of ThinkBox. So it's one of the largest university makerspaces in the world. And when you combine that with the access, it becomes very, very unique. So I was fortunate before we started this space to be able to go see the LCCC Fab Lab. Has anyone seen Lorraine County Community College Fab Lab? It was the first makerspace at any college in the world that I know of that was free and open to the public. I see Noah Razor back there. He's the one I met when he was on staff back there. That was a huge inspiration to be able to go into a university, a college where I wasn't a member of and be welcomed. So I carried that feeling back here, and I said, you know what, we're going to make our space also open at no cost to the public. So it's a 7-story, 50,000 square foot facility that's free and open to the public. At that scale, there's nothing like it in the world currently. I hope that changes. I hope other universities, other schools adopt the same mantra, because the benefit is there. We get, for many, many years, we've been strong in the technical side of things. You saw some of those technical oriented students in that video, but technical abilities alone don't win design competitions. They don't win sales. They don't inspire people, right? But because ThinkBox is free and open to the public, we get 15% of our visits from the Cleveland Institute of Art, a neighboring art institute on the same campus as Case Western, where Jay and many other talented industrial designers, graphic designers, fine artists, illustrators attend. And when you get those industrial designers and graphic designers together with our engineers and scientists, now you need to add law, now you need to add management. Now you have a real team. What we had in the past with our technical students was really impressive senior projects. And then those students go on to work at Apple and work at Google, and that's an option. It's a good option. Another option is to make your own company. Just take that cool, innovative, new, novel thing that you created as your senior project, your master's project, and have a go at turning that into an actual business. And so you see many of those projects fly. And it's because of that access. The scope is the third area where we're trying to do something unique. I've been fortunate to visit MIT and see their Fab Lab. They've got a $50 million space that's just chock full of goodies for engineers to tinker. I got to go see the iLab, I for Innovation, at Harvard. And of course, those are fantastic spaces for management students to think and brainstorm new kinds of services. When I go to the Stanford D School, which is what this floor is patterned after, the Stanford D School, D for design, they have creative furniture, they have whiteboards, you guys steal from the greats. So those are fantastic spaces for meetings, for designers to think and ideate. But what we're trying to do differently, and it sounds obvious when you say it out loud, why not put all those things in the same building, right? You need art, you need design, you need the ability to prototype, you need business and law resources. And what we want to see is this entire ecosystem. Instead of just having the makerspace, we also want to have resources where you can get a free patent. Even as a community member, you can get a free patent. Think about that. It's a $5,000 to $10,000 proposition if you go at it alone. We want to have spaces where you can incubate your business in the same facility as all these other resources, not just the physical resources of the machines, but the human resources of the faculty and staff advisors you're used to working with, and of the students and others you can recruit for your projects within the space. So this is aims to be a very powerful economic engine for the area. The state of Ohio came through they thought, oh my gosh, this is really going to be an economic engine, and they chipped in $1 million towards our $35 million goal on this project. The news traveled to the White House. In 2014, they listed this. They listed us alongside MIT. I've heard of them, and Carnegie Mellon, our neighbors in Pittsburgh, as 3 of the top makerspace-oriented universities in the nation. So of course, MIT and Carnegie Mellon, very highly ranked schools. We're very happy to be mentioned alongside them. I wanted to share a couple projects to give you an idea of the flavor of what comes out of here, the breadth and the depth. These are some of our selected featured projects. You can see these on the hallway monitor. So because of that open access, we get now 5,000 visits a year. I'm sorry, 5,000 visits a month. 5,000 visits a month. So that makes it the 3rd most popular thing on campus. The only more popular things are the gymnasium, and they've got basketball. That's hard to compete against. And the library. And we're making inroads on the library. You tell them I said that. We're coming for that. It's the #1 most popular thing for researchers to use on campus. We get thousands of projects that come through here each year, and some of them are quite impressive. These are going to be like 6 of those. So if you want to see more, you can see 100 plus on our website, or on a daily basis throughout the year, you'll see thousands of folks working on projects up in the space. This is called Every Key. Has anyone seen an article on this? It was in Cranes, it was in a bunch of magazines. So this is a wristband, and the idea is if you've ever had that experience of forgetting your password for a website, oh gosh, did I increment that number? Maybe I put another exclamation mark at the end. We all do the same things, it's okay. This makes that a thing of the past. So with this wristband, you hold it up to the computer, and through the magic of cryptography, it logs you into your websites for you. You don't have to remember those passwords. If you lose this thing, you can disable it online through a website or with your smartphone or tablet instantly. They were able to make a prototype here. We gave them a small pot of money. We then helped them get out to the Consumer Electronics Show out in Las Vegas 3 years in a row. So they just started letting student startups in 3 years ago, and we've been there each year. And each year we've had more student startups than any university in the world, including MIT, including Stanford. So we're really promoting this as we need to become the Stanford of the Midwest, right? I want to see that kind of economic growth in the area. As a lifelong Clevelander, I'm not Mr. Capitalism, but people need jobs, and it's cool to be part of the team that's creating those. So this just closed on $1.4 million in private funding. This is not a senior project. They've transitioned into, it came out of a student project in a class, but they've transitioned into a real startup company. And they've got an office now on the corner of Mayfield and Euclid, with over 25 employees. This is a classic engineering project. I'm going to rip on them a little bit. You see like a beige box and there's a red button and no label, or idea of what this does. So as an engineer, I get to make fun of us a little bit. But the reason they're so excited is because they've come up with a new kind of blood tester. So if you go to the Cleveland Clinic right now to get blood tests, they'll take a vial for vitamin B, they'll take a vial for iron, etc. It's uncomfortable, right? It's an injection. And by the time they're done, they might have taken 20 vials, right? That might be, I don't know, a pint of blood. And if you're a human, you might be thinking, that's my blood. Don't take any more than you absolutely need. But these students came up with a way to do all those tests, the basic metabolic panel of 8 tests, which is 1 drop of blood, just like we do for blood sugar testing, if you have friends or family members with diabetes. So this is incredible. There's kinds of innovation out there where you like make a piece of aluminum 1% thinner and save your company some money. That's great. But there's other kinds of innovation out there that are big, bold, blockbuster, game-changing, disruptive innovations that are going to change the face of healthcare as we know it. This is replacing a unit that costs $150,000. The materials cost on this is like $10. Total game changer. This can be run off a 9-volt battery. It's rugged. That means it can go into developing nations. It can go into parts of the world like disaster relief zones where you might not have routine access to a hospital. And it's instant. So you don't have to send the tests out and wait. You get pretty instant results. This is a game changer. So we're really happy to see where they're going. They were able to make this prototype here using the laser cutter, the 3D printer, electronics. We gave them a small pot of money from our student project fund, $2,500. It is nothing in the world of medical devices. And they were off and running. When they took a working prototype to their prospective investors, it's night and day between the person who walks in your door with a PowerPoint presentation, like I've got, and then the person who walks in with an actual physical working prototype, right? Within 3 months, they had over $700,000 in funding. It was much more than they actually needed. And they said, okay, we don't need any more money. We don't need any more funding. We're going to develop this further and get ready to go to market with this. We're very excited to see where they're going. Now, these two students are both from outside of Ohio, and they've both chosen to locate here in Cleveland in close proximity to ThinkBox. We're fortunate here at Case Western that we bring over 75% of our students, not just from outside of Cleveland, where I grew up, but outside the state of Ohio. So they're coming from every state in the nation, as well as many, many countries around the world. Over 50% of those, over half, stay here in Cleveland. So we're contributing to the brain gain for the area, and we hope that with ThinkBox we can contribute even more.
Could I ask a quick question on that one?
Yeah.
So, obviously a very disruptive technology, but were they working with the GE or anybody else to talk about the HL7 ANSI interface or anything like that? Like that piece alone could still interface with patient management systems and things like that, right? You take out the LabCorp, the Quest Diagnostics, whatever.
So and then the bigger question around that is, where does the business side of things come in? Are these students networking with who they actually need to be networking with? So this becomes a real product and not some little fuzzy thing that doesn't get its Kickstarter funded. So we have this ThinkBox here. This is really where you make those prototypes. Right. There's another entity on campus that's going to be housed here called LaunchNet. There's another one called the IP Venture Clinic. These are your resources as a student or community member, respectively. LaunchNet's for students, IP Venture Clinic is for community members, where you can get not only access to help getting the patent, writing the business plan, writing the term sheet, which is something investors need to see, but also help with all that next step, right? We don't just kick you out the door and say good luck. The next step is you need to network. You need to show up at these design competitions, business pitch competitions. You need to show up at the Consumer Electronics Show. You need to get networked into folks at GE and Philips and all the other, in this case, healthcare companies, so that your product can be integrated with a larger company.
When do you anticipate those services to be available?
They're available today.
They are for the public and the students?
Yeah. You got an idea?
Yeah.
All right. So if you Google, if you have a device handy, if you Google for the IP Venture Clinic, IP, of course, for intellectual property, IP Venture Clinic at Case Western, that's a resource. It's a free legal clinic under the same federal law that allows universities to operate other kinds of legal clinics. And with certain income restrictions, you can get a completely free patent. That is amazing. I want to.
Do you retain any elements of the IP?
The university doesn't retain any hooks or elements of the IP whatsoever. There are universities that do that, and what we saw is that they had very low output. Even an imagined barrier of a 1% stake is a huge barrier in the mind of someone who thinks that their idea's got to make $1 billion, because they do the math and I don't want to give them $1 million. I'm going to do this on my own, and then things just fizzle out. So what we decided to do, let's make the space free and open to the public. Let's make all the services free. Let's eliminate psychological barriers, training barriers, barriers to access to the machines, financial barriers, and let's see how much people can innovate. We hope that they would remember us down the line when they're super successful, when they have that $1 billion company, they come on back and, like myself, contribute and get your name up on the wall here. Hopefully they can contribute at a higher level than I can. This is a community project. It's a community member who did this project. It's a company. This device is called Pro2Fit. It kind of looks like a bong, but it is not a bong. It's an inspirometer, so it measures how deeply you inhale, which makes it sound like a bong, but it's not a bong. This is something that would help athletes train to inhale more deeply, get more oxygen into your lungs, so you can perform better. This is something that would help you after a surgery, right? And you're lying down, and because you're lying down so long, your lungs can't expel mucus the normal way, and you get pneumonia, which is any infection of the lungs. And your doctor, she or he, tells you to blow in that little tube and make the ball go up. That's called an inspirometer. And you tell your doctor, sure, I'll do that. And they leave the room, and you turn on the television. Because we all do that. Compliance is a huge issue in the field of medicine. What if you could have a Bluetooth-enabled device so your doctor would know if you actually did the task, and they could actually chart it and measure it? What if you could gamify that and have you helping your doctor compete against other wards in the same hospital? Or you competing on a computer screen against fictitious enemies. That has the potential to change that part of healthcare as we know it. You do not want to get pneumonia while you're in a hospital. You do not want your immune system to be compromised in that way. One of the top 10 deaths in the U.S. is a stay in the hospital of 2 weeks, and you get something that you didn't go in there with. So this is part of the effort to fix that and improve hand washing. I need to get a better picture of this. It looks a lot better now, but this project, these two students, their first year at Case, they took a class called SAGES, and it's supposed to help them transition from a high school way of thinking to a more collegiate way of thinking. In that class, part of the content, they learned that there's parts of the world where you can have access to a cell phone, routine access to a cell phone, but not one of these. You don't have a place to plug it in. The cell phone grid is very easy to expand. You put up one cell tower. The electrical grid, much, much slower to expand. And so these students realized that they learned that folks are walking a day. They're walking an entire day just to charge their phone. 12 hours there, 12 hours back. And they thought, we can do better. There are hand crank solutions out there, but then you have to sit there for 2 hours and just do this, right? You're not very productive outside of charging your cell phone. These students said, gosh, what if we just had a foot treadle, like on an old-time sewing machine, if you've seen one of those?
Yeah.
So I can be working with my hands, and I can be charging my cell phone at the same time. Very impactful. They got an $80,000 grant or $85,000. So this is a total figure representing a challenge we have at Case Western and a $70,000 grant from the EPA. So moving on from senior projects. This is kind of a fun project to include. This was a collaboration, as many of these are, between Cleveland Institute of Art and Case Western students, where one did the technology and one did everything else. So this is an elegant dress, and there's LEDs embedded in that garment. So as the model walks around, those lights change colors in a very elegant way. It doesn't look like a rave or a stoplight gone awry. It looks very elegant. They ended up selling some of these dresses, but you never know what's going to happen with these projects. They got approached by a local business incubator who said, can you make something like this, but for construction workers? And can you have it so that if they fall down, the lights change color, they change pattern or something to indicate that that person needs help, right? Especially if they stop moving for some time. Very interesting to see where that's heading. I think this is the last one I'll show you. This looks like a lighter for that bong that we saw earlier. But it's not. There's a student who found a way to ionize the air-fuel mixture before it goes into a combustion chamber and make jet engines more efficient. So he breaks apart these big hydrocarbon molecules into smaller hydrocarbons over here, and so this flame ends up becoming much more stable. A lot of the gas that we waste in airplanes is when you're just sitting on the tarmac. How many of you have been just sitting there for like 10 minutes, 60 minutes, 2 hours, right? The engines are running that whole time. That's a lot of gas, and the jet fuel is not the cheapest fuel to purchase. Not that I purchased it. So if you could tell those jet engine manufacturers that you could make those jet engines 1% more efficient on their fuel being the biggest cost driving airline ticket prices today, you just made $1 billion, 16%. So he's found that this device is 16% more efficient, especially at idle. That's huge. So he's now proved it at a small scale, and he's testing it at a NASA lab where they do jet propulsion's research. There's the JPL out in Los Angeles. There's also one at NASA Glenn here in Cleveland. So he's here in Cleveland still. And we're excited to see if we can keep him and keep that business, which is sure to grow to a very large business right here in the Northeast Ohio area. So what do students make? What do our users make at ThinkBox? Oops, I jumped ahead. Slides. I want to mention that we don't operate in a vacuum here in Northeast Ohio. There's many other universities, there's many business incubators that we interact with on a daily basis. These are just some of the Northeast Ohio incubators that we interact with. We've sent our student groups out to those incubators. Those incubators, well, they don't have 3D printers and laser cutters and prototyping machines, so they send their incubator companies, their portfolio companies they call them, over to ThinkBox to make their prototypes. We're very happy to see them here. It enables a lot of interesting interactions where the company ends up with an intern or a co-op from Case, or they do contract work, or they involve themselves in a senior project. And then here at Case Western, it's not just ThinkBox. ThinkBox is where you go to make it, but we also have, I've got to update this, they're called LaunchNet now. This is an office of support for student startups, for community startups. Not entirely so. A fusion program where in their courses, law students and business students will work to validate intellectual property on entrepreneurial projects. So what really gets me here, we hope, is innovation. This number is now 3.6. We've had our student startups and others have brought in over $3.6 million into the area. External funding. Or we lived in here, basement somewhere, elsewhere on campus. In that basement, our students and other startups generated over $3.6 million in external funding, created dozens of jobs and dozens of patents. We're in a space now that's 11 times that size. When is this number going to say 35 million? When's it going to say 300 million? When are we going to get to our 3,000th job created? That's what I'm aiming for as I look for ThinkBox in the future. We're developing now a plan called ThinkBox 2020, which is our vision of what this facility is going to look like and what are we going to be doing for our 2020, which used to sound like a far way away, but it's in 4 years, so get ready for it. It's coming. So we're going to have, I'm going to be excited to have you come back. How far we've grown at that point. That's my presentation. If anybody had any comments or questions for me.
Does a lot of this get funded through like the marketing budget? Just because Malcolm was talking about the number of students that actually watch something like this.
Oh yeah.
Attend school. Is that where most of the funding comes from?
Man, I would love to tap that budget. But most of the funding for this is philanthropic. So as you look on the wall with those hexagonal shapes there, those are the names of the individuals and the foundations. I have a very small hexagon over there. Very excited about it. Very excited.
That's why there's size
scales, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the bigger ones and the silver ones especially represent 7 or 8 figures. I do not have a silver hexagon, but maybe one day. So it's through philanthropy. The reason I give is because this is exactly the kind of thing I wanted when I was a student, and I love contributing to the concept of. And I'm not the biggest capitalist out there, but people need jobs. And the idea that we're participating in that is very meaningful to me.
So that's alumni and more?
Yeah, most of those folks are alumni. Some of those are going to be foundations. And so it's going to be like the Gund or the Cleveland Foundation, although their name's not up there yet. And then there's also the state of Ohio that chipped in $1 million. So those represent all of our sources of money right now.
As a librarian, I'm kind of curious about how you're saying you're trying to partner with the librarian, because I've been trying for 3 years now to do something in our high school, but I think the concept of it is very difficult for some educators and administrators to get their hands around, because it's messy and it's not controlled. It's not aligned that they can concretely say, okay, this is how we're improving academic excellence. So I'm just kind of curious, from your perspective, how you would see your relationship working with the library here.
Oh yeah.
I'm dying to do that, but I like with our program, it's such a different role.
Well, maybe I could talk about our K-12 relationship in general. So we promote makerspaces in K-12 spaces and in libraries. I've done now free consultations for over 100 libraries, K-12 schools, and universities as they build or expand their makerspace, with the goal being to see this everywhere. If I was a K-12 educator and I wanted to find the lever to pull to move my administration a little bit, it might be that young people are more and more, especially at private schools and especially at universities, they're expecting to see a makerspace. In 10 years at universities, students are no longer going to say, do you have a makerspace? They're going to say, where is your makerspace? Where is it? What are the open hours? When do I get access? What does it cost? There's entities on campus like libraries that have a defined vocabulary. You know what the reception desk is called. You know that a librarian helps you get the books, right? We don't have that yet at a makerspace. There's not a defined model that you see at every university. So at Arizona State University, they contracted with a for-profit entity called Tech Shop to just do it, just build us a makerspace, build us a big one. At other schools, they put it, at Carnegie Mellon, they're putting their new makerspace inside the library because it's seen as like the Switzerland of campus. It's not owned by engineering, it's not owned by, but if you look at private schools in the area and public schools in the area, more and more are containing makerspaces. And if you want to be competitive, this is a new kind of entity that you need to add. So I would suggest that might be the lever.
I heard somebody mention 21st century skills. We are Common Core, so which is different, but we're trying to blend have you found that if you put in something about the public schools that you get more donations or more interest, or how does that work? Or do you just keep it to your college students?
So good question. This space is free and open to the public, and we get many students from especially neighboring schools like John Hayes or School of the Arts, Montessori, and so forth are all in the vicinity, and those students can just walk over. We're looking forward to more deep partnerships with K-12 colleagues, especially the high school age, where they can really start to make stuff and meet our liability policies. Our only challenge to that right now is our staffing level. So I mentioned earlier that we get 5,000 visits a month. I've got 4 staff that I manage and some student workers. If I look at where like our library is standing on campus, they get twice the number of visits. They get 10,000. They've got 80 staff, so they have over 20 times our staffing, not counting the student workers. If we just have one more staff, and it looks like this year we might be able to finally open up the door, that's going to enable us to get a lot more serious about K-12. Is that a good answer?
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions?
Oh, how much do you charge for a visit?
The visits are totally free.
Okay.
There's no membership fee. There's no hourly fee to use the machines. And I mentioned that at other makerspaces I visit, they try to recoup the cost of the machines through these fees. So at UCLA, which is a fantastic university, I loved it. Their makerspace was very well organized. It does cost $1 per minute to use their laser cutter. And so I went on a tour. Guess how many people were using the laser cutter? There was no one in there. If you come on here during the open hours, 1 to 5 p.m., you'll see that there's a line of people waiting to use the laser cutter or the MakerBot. That's what we want to see. If I see a machine that's not being used, I'm like, why isn't it being used right now? It's wasting money if we have it there and no one's using it, right? That's our attitude.
I just have a follow-up question, and as much as this is a phenomenal space, and so agree that public schools, private schools need to develop them. Unfortunately, and I'm coming from a library background, teaching background, library background, the libraries and schools are seen as a great space. And maker spaces are moving into libraries, and they're not coexisting, they're taking over. And I guess I would like to hear how you would respond to an administrator from a public school who says, we've got a library, that's where our maker space is going to go, and the library program will just have to step aside. That's truly getting to happen.
Yeah.
And here I hear you say we have a library that's in second place as far as visits, and we are third. Obviously, the library is a huge resource for students here. How do you convince administrators that the library and the makerspace must coexist, not one replace?
That's a great question, and it's a difficult one. A lot of universities are motivated by rankings. So at a university level, we look at the ARL, the Association of Research Libraries. They have a ranking system. If we were to remove on campus our main research library, it would be heresy. Nobody would promote that idea. I have heard of it happening in high schools, and I have heard of it happening, well, not in middle schools yet, but I imagine that it might be happening. And that sounds rather unfortunate. It's hard to think that we can't make room for both.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Sure, you can quote me on that.
I will.
And then just say whatever you want.
I appreciate your reading.
Sure.
So talking about standards, what's that national discussion then that says let's bring everybody to the table, the schools, the industries, and things like that? Where is that right now in terms of so many cities, so many incubators? We know the drive is there. How do we drive that national discussion that says innovation and making needs to be part of the life of a child going to be K-12?
Oh yeah, and that's a big effort that the White House is doing right now. They've got their National Week of Making, which used to be just a National Day of Making. And whether you're for this particular administration or not, I'm of course going to be for the making aspect of it 100%. That's one way to drive the national discussion, but it's a very short time period. Typically, that would be the role of a trade association. or trade publications to drive that national discourse. And that's an area where makerspaces are a new enough entity that we don't yet have a group of very, very well-respected trade publications. We have Make Magazine, but it's not part of the discourse on higher education or secondary or post-secondary education. There's some mailing lists out there that have a few hundred folks on them. There's one called the Society of Academic Workshops. I'm on that one. There's another one called Make Schools that we participate in, and so forth. They don't. No dominant winner has emerged in that field to say, like, we are the standard. We're going to produce the trade publication. We're going to produce the conference, the trade expo, things like that.
IEEE would be the perfect one for that.
IEEE?
Yeah.
Institute for Electrical Engineering.
I mean, because they're linked with the Association of Manufacturing Excellence, AME, and all the Toyotas and the GMs and all those people at the big.
Tell them to get on it. I'll take one more question, and then I'm gonna. Anybody? Nope. Okay, I'm gonna turn the floor back over. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.